I found myself driving into oncoming traffic in my hometown. If I would have let this go any longer, I would have killed myself and somebody else because I saw a red light and it did not process as stop. That's how bad my brain fog was.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Hormone Lifestyle Zone. I have an incredible guest today. She's a client of mine. Her name is Penny Treese, and Penny Treese is a wonderful mom. She's an artist. She's a workshop facilitator. She's going to tell more about her life and why she is here. And the reason actually I have Penny here because I'm going to have Penny share her story about breast implant illness, what brought her to my office. And she had said to me in a conversation recently, she came to me in November of 23, and she said to me a couple of weeks ago when we were preparing for this podcast, Meg, if I did not come to you in November, I feel that I would have died within 2 months. So I still get choked up about this. This is a story that needs to be told. I'm very thankful. Penny and I have been working together now for 8 months, and I felt this was a good time for her to share her story. So again, I want to welcome you to the Hormone Lifestyle Zone. I am Meg Riccici. I am your host. I'm a women's integrative health practitioner, and I want to help you demystify your hormonal issues and struggles and the many things that dance in between that are referred to as the dust balls of life. I made a decision a few months ago. I've been doing the Hormone Lifestyle Zone podcast, I think, since 1918. I've done this will be my 55th episode. And I've interviewed a lot of people, a lot of experts, and I just thought it was time to bring clients on. I wanted to share information that I felt would be more relatable, more applicable, so that you could really say, I relate to what's going on here. You're going to hear a lot from Penny about her breast implant illness journey. That may sound similar to some of the autoimmune issues that you're struggling with. There are similar symptoms. With breast implant illness, it's triggered by these breast implants that are either filled with saline or they're silicone gel, but they're a foreign body in the body. So breast implant illness, it is after you've had breast implants inserted, they can either be filled with saline, like 65% of breast implants are saline solution filling. The other 35% is a silicone gel. But what happens for many women, and it can be almost within a matter of weeks, they start developing funky symptoms. And they can develop symptoms in a matter of weeks. It can be months. It can be years. And it can be debilitating. It can be crippling. And I'll go through those symptoms with you in a moment. But these implants are placed under the breast tissue, chest muscle, maybe up against the chest wall. And they can cause a lot of complications. 25% of women that have breast implants will go on to have breast implant illness. 300,000 women a year have breast augmentation. These are breast implants. And 3.5 million women in this country have breast implants. So if you're looking at a 25% ratio, that is absolutely frightening. I think that 25% is a heck of a lot higher. We're just starting to hit the tip of the iceberg. I was going to say the iceberg lettuce. We're just starting to become more aware of it. We're seeing the association between autoimmune issues and breast implant illness. And it's kind of like I have clients that have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Supposedly, only 10% of women have PCOS. That's not true. In my world, I see 35%, somewhere on the spectrum. So I think that number is incredibly higher. I don't know what it is, but I've seen a lot of it over the years. And we're going to take a deep dive with Penny. So if you like what you're hearing, I want you to share it with women in your life. Share it with your sisters, share it with colleagues, share it with friends. This is an important podcast. I'm getting a little chill because I know people personally that have breast implants and they do not want to have them removed and they are showing symptoms. And I can only provide information. So if you do like what you're hearing, subscribe on iTunes or Spotify. And if you want to watch this podcast, go to YouTube, The Hormone Lifestyle Zone with Meg Richichi. I have a channel there. You can watch this and you can watch shorts and you can see our lovely faces and hear our beautiful voices and sharing this information with you. I'm excited to be doing this podcast today. I love that Penny's going to share her journey, but part of the issue with breast implant illness is that these women have difficulty detoxifying. These women have problem with methylation, which is a form of detoxification. Methylation is a process where it allows the genes to be turned up or turned down. Some people say turn on or off. I think it's up and down the genes. So allowing for genetic expression. We all want healthy genetic expression. But also what methylation does, it allows us to detox hormones. It allows us to detox estrogen efficiently. Methylation, it helps to produce glutathione. It's the mother antioxidant. But the problem with women with breast implant illness, they don't methylate well. If they don't methylate well, they don't detoxify well. And that what happens, these women are more susceptible to higher levels of heavy metals, of environmental toxins, of mycotoxins from mold, from environmental pollutants. So you get this perfect storm going on. And the problem with the breast implant, it creates a very powerful immune response in the body. The body starts to reject it. These silicone or even saline implants, they release chemicals. They can leak silicone. They sweat. Think about it. They're in your body. Your body is 98.6. They're going to release chemicals. That's why I say to women, please avoid saunas when you have breast implants. So I'm going to leave you on that note. I'm going to bring Penny in. But if you like what you're also hearing here, you may want to work with me. Go to megrichichi.com. My contact information is there. We can take a deep dive together. If you're experiencing breast implant illness, you need help or other autoimmune issues, I may be the one to help you. I'm a really good health detective. So without further ado, Penny, thank you so much for joining me today in the Hormone Lifestyle Zone.
Thank you so much for having me, Meg. I'm just going to be completely authentic and just let women know what happened to me. I'm not going to have any shades of gray. This is absolutely black and white. And I do agree that what I told you was true. If I had not come to you, I believe I would not be sitting here today. 2 months after, I knew I was dying and I had no idea why. And you were the 16th practitioner that I saw. Thank goodness my OBGYN, Lillian Shapiro, recommended you to me. She actually recommended you to me for about 6 months. And I think that was because she was talking about this could possibly be breast implants, and I was not ready to hear that.
I just didn't want it. You have to be in the space. Yeah.
And Lillian kind of sweetly talked around it. But when I came to you, Meg, I needed you. I needed your personality. I needed your intelligence and wisdom and experience to say, Penny, I think this is what's going on. I think you need to get these out. Go to this surgeon. And that saved my life.
Well, when you came to see me, you didn't remember driving to my apartment. You didn't remember a lot of things that I said to you.
Absolutely not.
Share what you did. So when I saw Penny, I had highly recommended that she go see Dr. David Brothers. I'm going to include his information in the show notes. He's an amazing plastic surgeon. Penny's going to share more with you. He does beautiful explant work. I love this man. And he's kind and he's really smart and he knows what he's doing. So I will include his information in the show notes. And you set up an appointment to see Dr. Brothers right away. But Share with them how many times you drove to his office, and this is how bad. And I didn't list the breast implant symptoms. I'll go through this as I speak to Penny. We'll get clear on that because it runs the gamut.
I had every symptom. So I can start at the top of
Can
my
you
head
start with your
to my
symptom?
feet.
Penny is going to list some of the most classic breast implant illness symptoms. I will add on to that after she shares hers because she is I hate to say it, you are truly the poster child for breast implant illness. So let's start with you going to Dr. Brother's office, and you could not recall how to get there and how you were filling out the forms and putting in wrong dates. So let's talk about your cognitive severe brain fog.
That's for sure. Same as when I came to you, I could not remember coming to your home. I don't remember what we talked about. I don't remember the acupuncture. I had to pull over on the side of 285 after already driving to Dr. Brothers. 3 times I'd been there, and I still was like, where am I going? It was such a feeling of panic.
Wow.
And then that same week, I found myself driving into oncoming traffic in my hometown. And when I go to that intersection still today, I am just like full of fear that if I would have let this go any longer, I would have killed myself and somebody else because
Wow.
I saw a red light and it did not process as stop.
Yeah.
That's how bad my brain fog was.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I have to start at the top of my head and go through my body, but my hair has always been nice, full, healthy hair, fell out about 50%. What hair I had left, even when I washed it, was absolutely limp, like a dead corpse hair. It was so scary that I took baths every night and day, but I could not wash my hair except every 5 days. And I would shake. And when I got into the shower and take this big tooth comb and put all this conditioner and all these different oils and things in it and just barely comb through my hair because it was falling out in handfuls. I was so scared.
How long after the breast implants? Because you had them put in 20 years ago.
Yes.
So that
20
was
years ago.
How long after did you start? I know we're working from the top down. Did you start noticing you were losing hair?
I did not start losing hair until about 6 to 8 months before I had the breast implant surgery. But we'll talk about that. And then when I was hospitalized, that's when things went downhill. But the hair falling out and then the skin on my face, someone just related it to me recently who had her breast implants out. She said, you have a meth face. And I could not figure out. I would go to the grocery store and the people checking me out, instead of smiling like we used to do when I was, younger and all that, and just, I used to have a light in my eye and, hi, how are you doing? They just would look away from me. And I remember telling my husband that. He's like, that's not true. That's not happening. And I'm like, no, it is. Like, it almost looked like a ghost or just my skin hanging off of my bones like plastic. Everything was gone. There was no collagen left. My eyesight started to go away. I went to a retina specialist. He found nothing, but there was a blank spot in my vision. My hearing started to go away. It started to fade. My breathing, I started having anxiety for the first time in my entire life, not being able to control just the heart pounding. Felt like someone was taking my heart, shaking it inside of my body. The colon issues, you can tell them all about that. But oh my gosh, just I couldn't eat anything without it just coming out.
And what I will interject at this point. So Penny came to me in November, mid-November, before Thanksgiving of 23. In March, you had salmonella poisoning. She was hospitalized for 5 days. They never keep you in the hospital more than a day. It was bad. And you were running a high fever. They had you on antibiotics. When you came home from the hospital, were you still having diarrhea?
Yes. And they were not going to let me leave until that stopped. But I didn't go to the hospital for 3 days. I laid in bed with a temperature of 102.6. But then I was getting up every 3 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. With diarrhea for 3 days, every 3 minutes, completely dehydrated, being told to take Imodium and all these things that were tearing me up even worse. And then in the hospital, I don't remember a whole lot of that either because I was just barely hanging in there. 5 days later, I still had diarrhea, but they said until you formed a solid stool, you cannot leave. My husband and I were about to break out of there because we're like, we got to get out. We got to figure something else out. This isn't working. So then I came to you after I got back.
When then you came to me in November. So I want to list some of the other symptoms you had. You had joint pain. You had muscle pain. You developed Raynaud's, like within a matter of months after the implants.
Yes.
You
Within
developed
6 months.
Sjogren's, which is dry mouth, dry eyes.
Dry skin.
Dry skin. Yeah. I mean, these are all autoimmune issues. You had memory issues. You had anxiety. And we did testing. You had food sensitivity. You had gluten. I did a stool test, and Penny had Giardia. So I had to treat her for that. And we stopped the diarrhea. But also, which I mentioned before, and Penny will get into this, Penny had a childhood history where she had asthma, and she had been on steroids, and she had allergy shots, and she had issues with mold, and mold showed up in her test. And pesticides showed up in your test. But your gut, when we did the gut zoomer, your microbiome was trashed. You had a leaky, inflamed gut. So we worked on healing you and resolving the Giardia, which they didn't even pick up on when you said, and this happens a lot. I've had people in the hospital for some other GI issue, and then we run a stool test, and then we see other things, and we get to the root of it. I want to reiterate again, Penny had a childhood, antibiotics, steroids, asthma. Do you want to add to this? Because sometimes what people, I always look at the backstory. Penny had a compromised microbiome when she was a kid. And I feel too that Penny's had difficulty with methylation and detoxification. So I feel that there was the backdrop of that around the time of getting her implants. And Penny, you can share this story. You were in a marriage, and talk about the babies in the marriage and the implants. We're going to bounce a little bit here, and then we'll go into what I was doing with her.
So I married my high school sweetheart. We were together since we were 16. After college in Illinois, we moved to Atlanta. I'd been getting allergy shots since 4th grade. When I came to Atlanta, there was a whole nother issue of pollen. If you've ever experienced our pollen, it's pretty crazy.
Oh God, it's bad down south. Charleston and Atlanta they're competing for pollen. Anyway,
for sure. Yeah. But I went to a chiropractor for the first time, and he said, "What are you doing on allergy shots?" I said, "Well, I've been on them since 4th grade. I have all these allergies to grass, pollens, everything that's in Illinois, molds." And I continued. He said, "You don't need to be on those anymore. Let's work with you in a chiropractic scenario. And then I think they're making you worse." And he was absolutely right. I got up with allergy shots, and I got better. My allergies almost disappeared. My boyfriend and I, at the time, we got married, had 2 children, and then that turned, and he ended up cheating on me with an 18-year-old that was actually working at the daycare that my children were going to. So at this time, my daughter was 8 months old and my son was 3 years old. Also gambled away all of our money. So at the same time as that, I was feeling betrayed with this affair. Also, money was gone, and I divorced him, and I raised the children as a single mom for several years. I had been in a fight or flight scenario with him since I was 16. That played into a lot, I think, of my health issues. I got down to about 98 pounds while we were together. After we got divorced, started to thrive in my own personal life. I may be penniless. My name's Penny, but I was penniless, but I was free. Also, at that time, I found an art healing class. Called myself an artist since I was 3 years old, went to art school. When I came to Atlanta, I was in advertising, but when everything crashed down, was also 9/11, and everyone was getting fired and there were no jobs. And I also didn't have a career at that time to fall back on as I was nursing my children and trying to raise them as a single mom. So I found an art healing class. Something in my soul told me to get back to art. And I looked up a way to heal. And I started taking an art healing class once a week. That continued for 2 years. And through that, I was able to forgive my husband, maybe forgive myself for putting myself through that abusive relationship. And then I started to paint in a more freeing, abstract way. And other women were attracted to that. And so then I started painting and getting into galleries. And now I'm teaching that method and helping other women heal through art, including women that have been sex trafficked. Wow. So that was a little tangent of my life.
What a gift. So I just wanted to touch on something. When did you get the breast implants? You were still married. Can you go through that scenario? What made you decide to get breast implants?
Mm-hmm. My soul probably knew that my husband was having an affair. Okay. I was in a stage of denial. I now have learned that denial serves a purpose. Mm-hmm. And when my daughter was 8 months old, I'm nursing her. I'm still trying to work some freelance graphic design jobs. I'm just trying to hold together. My sweet little active boy is running around crazy. My husband is gone with the girl, gambling away our money. That was the scenario at the time.
So you got the breast implants. How old were you at the time?
31 years old.
Okay.
And I just had stopped nursing Gabrielle. And so I had A-size breasts my whole life. I was made fun of. And after nursing her, all the tissue was gone. I had also lost all this weight. And so I pretty much had 2 balloons, empty balloons, it felt like. And I did not feel like a female anymore. And again, my intuition was telling me that there was something going on behind my back. And that girl was 18 years old. And so the reason I got implants was not for that husband. It was not for anyone except me. I made the choice to enhance my body. And at the time, that felt like what I needed to do. I asked the surgeon to give me the smallest implants possible. I just wanted to, again, look like a female again. Now I know you don't have to have any sort of size breast to feel or look like a female. But at the time, at age 31, with what the trauma I was going through, that was what I felt like I needed at that moment.
So after the implants, within a matter of months, developed Raynaud's.
Yes. So about 6 months after getting the implants, fatigue had set in, joint pain, that almost enabled me to be well.
Can I interject? Did you leave your husband at that time?
I left my husband the moment I found out that he had been cheating on me and that we had negative $200,000 in our account.
Okay.
So I was done. Never looked back.
New beginning to life. Breast implants. Start anew.
Yep. I was free.
So within 6 months after that, being a single mom, you started developing these symptoms. So you had the Raynaud's.
Yeah, and Raynaud's, in my case, I think it's different for some people, was that my fingers were turned blue.
Right.
It looked like my fingers had been dipped in actually like purple Kool-Aid. And that would happen several times a day. I had no idea why. Again, my joints and my knees were swollen up so severely that I could barely hold my daughter. So that's when I went to a doctor and he said, I think you have something that is between mixed connective tissue disease, lupus, or rheumatoid arthritis. And he was right. I went to a rheumatoid arthritis doctor and he said, this is what's going on.
Were the markers there for lupus?
No, they couldn't call it lupus or RA. That's why they mixed.
But you had the symptomatology that mimicked. Okay.
Very, very low white blood cell count. That happened all the way to 20 years. I think it was supposed to be in like the 3,000s to 10,000s or something. And mine was in like 2 dropping to like 1,000. Yeah. I was very tired all the time. That did not have energy. But as a single mom, I'm out there and I'm raising my kids the best as I can.
So you lived 20 years and then you developed Sjogren's.
Right. And Sjogren's, it's interesting. The rheumatoid doctors told me, oh, by the way, you have Sjogren's. And I'm like, well, when did that show up? And they said that a year ago. Why didn't you tell me? They're like, well, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
If you have an autoimmune disease or something, you can do about Sjogren's.
And that's the issue. And the issue is an autoimmune disorder is when there's a dysregulation of your immune system. So you want to get to the root cause and causes. Why is your immune system hypervigilant? Why is this dysregulation going on? So for Penny, she had these symptoms for years. And the tipping point was when she was in the hospital and had salmonella and just was like on death's door, and finally came to see me. And also, after she had the salmonella, she had this incredible rash under her breast, all over her belly. And I even said to her, I was like, that was the clincher. And I was like, please get these breast implants removed.
That was really scary. That happened while I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
I thought it was because I had this hospital gown on and I kind of tucked it up under my sports bra at the time. And I was sweating and, I had this 102 temperature. I thought, oh, it's just that. No, that rash did not go away no matter what I did. I went to 3 dermatologists. I used every ointment, cream, everything I could possibly do. It was not going away. And then within probably 2 weeks after I got the breast implants removed, it calmed down. It was not angry anymore. And then week after week, it was fading and fading. And now 8 months later, it's completely gone.
After you had the breast implants taken out. And also, this is where I put Penny on an anti-inflammatory food program. Exactly we took out gluten is like, I'm going to go through this on every podcast. There is nothing good to say about gluten. And why is that an issue? Anyone that has an autoimmune issue usually has a leaky gut, has gut dysbiosis, an imbalance of good and bad bacteria. What does gluten do? It creates little tears. It starts to break down your gut lining. So every time you eat gluten, you get a little tear, and then the tear starts to heal. And what happens if you have a very compromised immune system, the gut starts becoming leakier and leakier. You also had been on a variety of medications. What do medications do? You were on antibiotics when you were in the hospital. That's why I think the rash, your gut got completely trashed. Your immune system just went into overdrive. So my focus with Penny, when she first came to see me, I was like, we have to drive down the fire in your body. You're going to go see Dr. Brothers. Your life will change when you get those implants out, but that's part of it. Now I have to work on opening up your detox pathways. I have to make sure, and this is a metaphor I use, that the drains in the pool are open so the water stops being murky. You ever go to a pool and go, oh my God, it's brown and cruddy, and then you go into the filters and it's got all this goo and gunk and like dead frogs and squirrels and just weird bugs. I've seen this, by the way. It's not pretty. So I did things to open up drainage to help her detox. And I'll go through that in a moment. We did testing. I wanted to make sure, again, what was going on in the gut. I did a tox screen on her. We checked for environmental chemicals. We checked for mold. We looked at pesticides. Mold came up for Penny. Some environmental stuff, which she will now. We've had this conversation, we'll address. She's got some mold in the house. So she's going to take care of that. I recommended somebody really good. Sometimes it's tricky for people when you tell them they have mold in the house. They're like, no, I don't see anything. I'm like, yeah, you got something going on because it's showing up in your test. That's going to make such a difference for you. But she also I saw mold in grains. Why grains? We store these grains in bins and they just accumulate mold. You're high in glyphosate. Well, here's the wackadoo thing about glyphosate. Wheat is sprayed with glyphosate. Glyphosate contributes to a leaky gut. What does a leaky gut do? If your gut is open, you're going to have undigested food, proteins, weird things that should not be recirculating in the blood system. And what happens, it contributes. So you start having food sensitivity to things. You start having more of an inflammatory response. Your joints are inflamed. You have brain fog. It goes on and on. So there's this dance of how do we clean up the gut? How do we heal and seal the gut? With Penny, I had to put her on digestive enzymes. She wasn't digesting anything. The woman was having diarrhea all the time. She was losing all minerals and vitamins and nutrients. So we worked very hard. I did glutamine, we did colostrum, we did digestive enzymes. I was a Nazi about making sure, I still am a Nazi with this, about making sure there is protein in. Protein helps us heal. And when I talk protein, I'm talking animal protein, grass-fed, pastured, eating cold water fish, but eating meat. Meat is so nourishing. It helps in the production of neurotransmitters. It helps to create muscle. It helps to heal the gut. I can't say enough about meat. It's so powerful eating protein and getting a diversity of vegetables in your diet. But I think gluten for so many people, including myself, because I had Hashimoto's and I have thyroid issues, I do not have antibodies. I will not eat gluten. And it just doesn't work. And I'm really glad you got off of that. And then what I also did with Penny, and Penny's going to chime in, I use fulvic and humic acid supplements. I made sure that I did supplementation that helped to open up the liver and the kidney and the bile flow so she could detox efficiently. I recommended for Penny to do infrared sauna. Infrared saunas are powerful in detoxing. Amazing, but not when you have implants. Please don't do infrared when you have implants, particularly if you feel you have you're having weird autoimmune issues. I will stress this. I'm not a fan of infrared sauna if somebody has implants, because it's just going to leach out chemicals into your bloodstream. And I had a friend of mine who had breast implants, and she didn't realize it and was doing all these saunas, and she felt deathly ill. And she had her implants removed and they were leaking silicone, which is a scary thing. Silicone is very, 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 very. Penny had saline.
With the silicone casing.
But the casing is silicone.
Right. And so what you said, that's the word. When I would tell people, I'm just now telling people, this is the first time I'm publicly ever coming out that I've had implants or explants, or that I've had Breast Implant Illness. But when I tell people, they're like, oh, well, so they were leaking, right? That's why you got sick. I'm like, no, they were leaching. The silicone was leaching into my body.
Yeah.
And a picture of me that I took the morning of surgery, like I said, looked like my skin was hanging off of my body. I was literally a skeleton. My eyes were dull.
I remember when I saw, you were so gaunt.
I literally looked like a corpse. And I just don't believe I would have made it 2 more months. I don't think it could have happened.
So you and I started in November. So I'm going to say we worked together for 8 months, little over 8 months. Tell people what has happened over the past 8 months.
Well, Meg is a Nazi, and I love it when it comes to the foods and the supplements. And I thought, how in the world am I going to take these supplements and, get all the food in? And it has changed my life. My hair's back. My skin is back. I finally have some muscles again. I mean, This was just skin hanging off my body. And that protein, oh my gosh, I can't emphasize that much. It tastes great. It's not like somebody's telling you to go eat only legumes or something all day long.
That would not be good for you.
Right? The food and these supplements, it was just like my body was blooming into this flower that was coming back to life. You can't put enough value on that.
And how's your little brain?
My little brain is coming back. I'm actually doing a Duolingo, trying to learn Italian right now to go on a trip here soon. But I tell you what, I could not remember my name, my kid's name. My best friend called me right before getting the breast implants explanted and said, is there something I've done wrong? Why don't you want to come see me anymore? Why do you say no to coming to Thanksgiving? And I just was bawling, crying. I'm just like, I'm sorry, it's not you. I can't get out of bed. And now jogging and working out and finally going on some trips and want to visit my family and just enjoying the sunshine and being able to live again. And this is because of the protocol that Meg has put me on, that she gave me the strength and the courage to get these breast implants out. I love the way I look now. I didn't at first. It was really, really hard.
Yeah.
I'm actually painting through some of that now, of the fear I had. It's my husband. I married an amazing husband 3 years after I got divorced, and we raised our 3 children together. And he's been so supportive and just, I love you. This is you. This is the real you. This is natural. This is you free of any toxins. Those were killing you.
Yeah.
And, I thought, I'll be wearing padded bras and all that from now on. No, I'm just like, this is me. And I love it. And I'm lighter and I'm real. I would love to share that with other women going through this, because I was dead set against, I will not get these implants out. I don't want to look like that again. And now I'm just so happy and can live.
Well, I do think it's funny because I was looking over your notes, and the notes that you sent me on the intake forms, it said, yes, I have these autoimmune issues, but I don't think they're related to the implants at all. And I was like, oh, okay.
That was the biggest denial that anyone could be in.
I'm glad that you were in the space to finally hear. I mean, where were you going to go?
I needed you to tell me that.
And I'm glad that you listened. It's very hard. I've had people come to me and they just weren't ready. I know somebody right now, I know she's having issues with her breast implants, and you can't push people. The reason for this podcast, I'm hoping that it provides enough information for people to take a step back and be objective about what is going on with them. I've known people to have implants taken out and they have no symptoms. They were just like, because I've read enough. I mean, the FDA, I cannot even tell you, and I will include the link, list all the concerns that they have with breast implants. I mean, this is the FDA. So there's a big concern there. And we live in a culture that, that's another podcast, and I'm not a therapist. I have little breasts. I love my little breasts. They're just little.
You helped me there too. You're so beautiful.
They're just little breasts. Some people have have a B or D. I have a Dixie cup. I love my little breasts. I'm proud of them. They're just me. I'm fine with that. Also, I will say that Dr. Brothers does great reconstructive surgery, and Penny's a very happy camper. So, but how much better are you?
I would say when people ask me that, which they do all the time, especially my friends that saw me before and see me currently, I feel between 90 and 95% better.
We're going to continue working on other things.
Yes, you and I are going to work on that last 5%.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it is night and day.
Yeah. Now you can drive a car and know where you're going. That's a frightening thing. I did not realize that until you told me, and I went, holy shit.
I still have like a PTSD response when I go to that one intersection. And I'm like,
can I ask which intersection?
It was at Whole Foods intersection there in Decatur.
Oh, I know where that is.
Yeah. I know. And people were they're honking at me. And my brain was like, why are they honking at me? What am I doing wrong? I was in the absolute left lane.
Wow.
That people piled up coming towards me. And I was like, I can't drive anymore. I can't see my friends anymore. Just to do a load of laundry, I'd go back to bed for 2 hours. It was no quality of life.
But here's the great thing that I want to share with anyone that may be considering the possibility that they have breast implant illness or they're removed. You started feeling better immediately after getting them removed.
2 days later, I looked like a new person.
What shifted right after that, those implants being removed?
The sunken eyes, the dead eyes, the sagging skin. It was like there was a light being ignited in my eyes and under my skin again. It was like I was being pumped with collagen. My family came down 10 days after the surgery for Christmas. And they were like, we'll call off Christmas. We don't have to do that. We don't have to come visit you. I was out like bowling with two hands with my family. I was able to enjoy Christmas and help make food. And before that, like I said, there was not even a getting out of bed to make myself a cup of soup for at least a month before. Everything has changed. Relationships.
You got
everything.
Your life. And what was significant for you too, you were so concerned. You're like, Meg, I want to get back in the studio and create art. And I said, don't worry, you'll get back there. But just right now, just rest, recover, walk, and you did all that. Penny, I so want to thank you for choked up. I love Penny. And I love the fact I just moved to Decatur about a month ago. Now we're like close to one another, so we can maybe meet up for coffee or something like that. But I'm glad you shared your story. And I will also include Penny's contact information for her studio and her artwork. It's really quite beautiful. I will include Dr. David Brothers' information, the plastic surgeon. He is here in Atlanta. He's extraordinary. And again, if you want to take a deep dive and you want to heal, it doesn't have to be breast implant illness. It could be rheumatoid arthritis. It could be colitis. It could be any autoimmune issue, or you could have quirky, achy symptoms and your docs can't find anything and they're scratching their head. Call me. Let's take a deep dive. Let's get to the root cause and causes of why you're not feeling well. For any woman, let's look at your diet. Let's look at how well you're detoxing. Let's support your adrenals. And we did a lot of work with Penny with that too. You want to buffer the stress. You want to look at lifestyle habits, all the nooks and crannies. And one thing I also want to say about Penny, it was peeling back an onion. We did stages with different supplements. I did stages using different binders and different type of supplements to heal the gut. I did different type of adrenal support. I changed her probiotics. All probiotics are not the same. I was always tweaking to get to the deeper levels or deeper layers of Penny's issues. And the next thing we're going to tackle is get rid of that damn mold out of the house.
I would love to also interject that you worked with Dr. Shapiro, my GYN.
Yes.
She recommended you, like I said, for 8 months. I finally came to see you. But so many women that I've talked to with the breast implant illness think that it's their hormones because it acts like that, right? But it goes way deeper than that.
I think it acts like the body's on fire.
Well, that's true. But the depression, the anxiety, the hair loss, the skin, the collagen, like that. But then it was like, no. And you were the one who told me this is not what it is. Penny, I know you want to believe that it's anything else but this. So thank you again for giving me the courage.
I so appreciate what you said because it can start off very subtle. Breast implant illness. I know someone, she suddenly totally fit and developed endometriosis. Never had it in her life. And once I took the breast implants out, they were crystal clear. So again, leaching, detoxification, all these. But here's the beauty. Women can heal. The body is designed to thrive. Allopathic medicine, and I'm not putting it down, it does not treat root cause. It'll give you medication for symptoms. You had this rash under your breast. I'm surprised nobody thought about your breast implants. That is the type of detective work I do. I look at the nooks and crannies, and I want women to go on and enjoy their lives. And, I was excited about having Penny on this show at some point, and here she is today. And I'm so happy. So, my sweet lovelies, thank you so much for hanging out with me and Penny. And I'm delighted that you're here. I'm so happy that you are sharing this information with other people. Again, subscribe, iTunes, Spotify. Check out the video on the hormone. I have to remember my YouTube, the Hormone Lifestyle Zone with Meg Riccici. And if you want to work with me, just go to megrichichi.com and set up a discovery call. So until next time, I wish all of you an amazing day. Love your little tatas. Love those little girls. Take good care of them. Make sure you do your weekly, breast examination. Very important. If you feel anything funky, go speak to your gynecologist. And I'm going to put this out, and I love Lillian Shapiro. If you're looking for a really good gynecologist, I adore Lillian. She's a detective. She's really geeky in the best of ways of being geeky. That's why I love her. I'll include her in the show notes too. So until next time, take good care, a lot of love, and thank you so much for joining me today on the Hormone Lifestyle Zone. Much grace. Be well.